So I'm a bit late on the news when it comes to this topic, but it seems like we have some more scams in the Kickstarter community when it comes to all these new trading card games. First, we had Maelstrom, which I talked about previously. I said I thought it was a ticking time bomb, and then several months later, it turns out the creator was scamming everybody, tried to run away with everybody's money. He said he had a bunch of medical conditions. He was going to go in the woods and off himself. And then he's found by the investigator trying to flee the country in the airport. Absolutely crazy. Like, you can't make this stuff up. It sounds like the plot line to a movie. I apologize for anybody that backed that game. I try to talk people out of it. I mean, even I couldn't have predicted that the man was just going to run away with people's money that quickly, but it happens. You got to understand, when you back a Kickstarter, it's not like you're going on Amazon or Walmart.com and you're buying product. You're hitting buy and they're going to send it to you. There's no guarantees with this stuff. And Kickstarter backs their own asses as well. You got to understand this too. Their terms of service basically say if the creator of the Kickstarter tries to fulfill their promises, that's all that matters. They wash their hands of it, they move on. So trying to get your money back is very difficult in this scenario. Some people are winning, and I suggest if you did get scammed, try to charge back. Some credit card companies are very chill and they'll do it. Others, you're going to be in a pretty big battle for a while trying to get your money back. Some people are just going to straight up lose. But I want people to be warned. The way that they do it is whenever you do a chargeback is they will give you the money back and then they investigate. And they can take that money back like 2-3 months down the road. So do not think that you got that money back until they confirm that the whole thing is finished and completed and that you won. Because otherwise there could be people that think they got money back and then they end up spending it. And then all of a sudden they get charged a couple months down the road. I don't want that to happen to anybody. So be very wary of that, okay? Because Kickstarter protects themselves. They do it on purpose. I think it's very scummy. They should give buyers protection. It's just like Patreon. I don't agree with Patreon either. They do the same exact shit. They want their cake and they eat it too. They allow sellers, basically Patreon creators, to sell product on their website, but they give nobody protection for it. I got scammed previously out of product that I bought on Patreon and wasn't able to get my money back because to them, they basically wash their hands of it and there's nothing they can do about it. Well, they can if they wanted to, but there's nothing you can do about it and you're shit out of luck. I just don't agree with these companies that want to play both sides of the coin. I don't get it. I don't like it, but it is what it is. It's the world that we live in, unfortunately. Hopefully things change in the future, but be weary of it. And this is going to change things moving forward. I mean, the economy is already doing it anyway. We're not in this 2020 bubble like we were. People aren't dumping thousands of dollars into Kickstarters anymore. But Ted Spaceman's been doing a lot of these expos and stuff. And there seems to be tons of TCGs that are still going to be coming out on Kickstarter in the coming months and into next year. So I just want people to be very wary of this. Make sure if you're going to back something that you understand the risks because there's a lot of scamming going on lately. But first we have Maelstrom. Then we have Polywog. Some people are saying Polywog's a scam. I think it was just mismanaged funds. I mean, I've been in the Discord. In fact, I feel like I'm the one that's single-handedly saving that game right now because I'm the only one that actually got Kevin to come out and give us numbers about what he's actually been spending his money on. Everybody else has just been screaming and complaining and this and that. And I felt like it got very close where he was about to shut the thing down for good. And thank God I was able to come in there, word things correctly, and actually get him to address it. And now things seem to be heading in the right direction. People are now getting some... They're starting to feel good about the game again a little bit, and they're starting to buy some of the boxes and stuff. And if they buy these new Illustrator boxes, hopefully he can get the funds to get out the Kickstarter boxes. I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. I feel a little bit better about it now, but as of right now, I'm not going to put it in the same category because I truly do believe that Kevin has good intentions. He wouldn't be here right now. He would have just ran off with the money otherwise. I do think his good intentions. It was just mismanaged funds. And unfortunately, that happens with these Kickstarters. These are very new people that are new to business. They don't know what they're doing. They're going to make lots of mistakes. People have to understand this. There's so many risks involved. Rudy talked about it. I talked about it. It's just crazy. But that's Maelstrom. That's Polywog. And recently, we had Titan TCG. We had some bad news a little over a month ago when we found out Mike Fernandez, the creator of Titan TCG, actually passed away by a heart attack. And it happened at a convention. I think it was Collecticon or something at the time. Died in his sleep. And it was very unfortunate. It was very sad when we found out this information. I myself had a lot of discussions with Mike in the early days. And he did seem like a pretty genuine guy. He seemed to be pretty nice and everything. But I'll get into that a little bit further here in a moment. But it was very sad when we found this out. Basically, what happened was after he passed away, his team said they were going to take on Titan and they were still going to try to get it out on their own. And they got a hold of everything and they started doing research and this and that. And they started discovering a lot of things that they did not want to discover. Basically, it turns out that Mike never made Titan an actual LLC. All the money was going into his own personal bank accounts, which nobody else has any control of. So nobody has the money anymore. It turns out he was printing tons of copies of cards, even though they were supposed to be like one of ones and like one of hundreds and stuff. And he was printing like tons more copies of these cards, and he was selling them backdoor on the side for cash. Now, this is all alleged. This is all alleged by the actual team behind the game. For all we know, they could be lying to us and they could be running off with the money. That's a possibility. But I want to let people know right now that none of this really surprises me. It doesn't shock me in the slightest. I wish I would have made a video about Titan way back then, because I did not like Titan from the day I saw the Kickstarter. It was red flag city across the board, almost as bad as Maelstrom, in some ways worse, because I didn't want to touch this at all. And the reason why I didn't is because it looked like it was written by a 5-year-old. The graphic design that was shown on the page was very poor. It looked like it was just rushed together. Like, literally, it was like somebody trying to finish their project like the night before it was due or something, is what it looked like to me. The actual description of the game looked terrible. Like, there was nothing there. There was no substance. We didn't see pictures of any of the cards. There was just some artwork, but that was it. I know Grand Archive didn't have a lot either, but they showed a lot more than what was shown here. And apparently Mike Fernandez, this guy that supposedly worked for Samsung for marketing, is like the worst market I've ever seen, because there's just nothing here. And I addressed this. I asked him questions. I talked about this. Like, literally the whole time the Kickstarter campaign was going through, I kept pushing. I'm like, Mike, are you going to show me something? Because I'm not seeing anything here. Like, you're literally trying to sell me on a dream right now. And he kept pushing this idea that he's like, I don't understand, when you make a Kickstarter, you're trying to get the funds so you can make the game. The game shouldn't already be made. He kept trying to, say that that's the way that Kickstarter should function. And I kept arguing, I'm like, this is terrible. Like, if you want me to buy your product, you got to sell me on that product. And all these other games that already had their shit together, out the gate, like Sorcery and Nostalgics was pretty far along. MetaZoo was pretty far along. Like, you should be that far along before you even decide to create a Kickstarter. Like, the whole thing was just backwards, the way that he was trying to promote this. I just didn't understand it. But I kept asking for stuff and asking for stuff. And eventually I was like, are you just secretly sitting on a bunch of stuff? Excuse me. Are you secretly just sitting on a bunch of stuff right now and you're not putting it out? And he laughed and made jokes about it and said that he was, which I thought was ridiculous. Because in my opinion, it's like, if you're literally sitting on a bunch of shit right now and you're not putting it out, you are like the worst businessman I've ever seen in my life. Because your campaign would be blowing up right now, because everybody else is blowing up, making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and his was very stagnant, didn't go up very high at all, because he was basically shooting himself in the foot. If he had stuff to show off, in my opinion, he would be showing it off. So this is a very big red flag out the gate. I thought he was lying. I didn't think he had anything. And it got all the way to the end of the campaign, and he finally released a couple of the cards, but they kept changing the designs left and right. Like, nothing was set in stone. It was really, really bad. And I was making jokes about it. I was basically saying, I'm going to kick you into the pit of despair. If this is what it means to be a Titan, I'm going to be a Spartan. And I put up the meme and stuff like, this is Sparta. And I put it in the Discord, and it was some pretty funny times, right? But I wanted nothing to do with it. I backed out of the game. I didn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But I wish I would have put out a video at the time, just like I did with Maelstrom. It's just, I didn't want to do it because I feel like I could have been wrong. And unfortunately, guys, you got to put out your opinions. You have to do this, because this is what we need to do as in a community. If you see something that you don't think is right, let people know, and then they can take that and they can make their own decisions, of course, at the end of the day. Because I found out, like Ted and a lot of these other people like Harvey and stuff, they didn't see any of these signs. They were really surprised that this is actually, what Mike was doing behind the scenes, and the fact that there really wasn't any game here. They're really surprised by it. They didn't see any of this, and it's well, I saw it all, right from the get-go. And if people like me would have put out that video, maybe more people would have known about it, and then they could have discussed it and this and that, and we could have gotten somewhere, and more people wouldn't have gotten scammed. It's just unfortunate, but I just want to let people know, put out your opinions. It doesn't matter how crazy they are. If they're backed, by some valid proof, or whatever, or maybe they're not. It doesn't matter, but people can make their own decisions at the end of the day, right? Because Ted talks about we need some kind of forum to all come together and discuss these things and rate games and stuff. And it's I think videos is the best way to do it, really, because that's all I was doing back then, was doing Google searches and YouTube searches for stuff, trying to watch every single video I could on all these games that I wanted to back, right? And it just wasn't many of them. It surprised me that so many people are spending so much money on these things, but nobody was really, talking about them in YouTube videos and stuff. It blew my mind. There should be way more discussions going on. But I don't know. There was just so many red flags here. And then after the Kickstarter came out, out, I started to think, maybe there is a game here because it was doing pretty good at events and conventions. A lot of people were attending and they were playing the game and stuff. So I'm like, okay, maybe this will turn out to be a good game, right? But at the same time, whenever I went into the Discord and stuff and I tried to hear about what's been going on, he kept saying everything was on track, everything was ahead of schedule. And it blew my mind because his campaign came out months after Nostalgics and Grand Archive. And he said everything was in line to print and everything. And he said they were going to print before Nostalgics and Grand Archive. And Grand Archive ain't even coming out until next year now. So I knew that was a red flag at the time. I'm like, there's no way in hell you're getting these cards out. Like, there's no way, because he had no game out the gate. Even when the Kickstarter ended, he didn't have like any cards. So you can't tell me that this game is so ahead of schedule, or at least perfectly in line to be on time. Like, none of it made any sense to me. So it does not shock me at all to come to find out that he didn't even send the cards to the printer. Like, they were still waiting for the designs. He never left a deposit for the printers, even though he said that they were printing. I mean, it's crazy to me what he was telling people, right? And also, I saw him nonstop. Almost every single day, this man was on drip selling cards, like special promo cards, this and that. There's people on my Discord that I hang out and we're buying these cards, these 1/1s, 1/10s and stuff, right? He was just selling these things left and right. So it doesn't shock me either to find out that he was overprinting these things secretly and he was selling them backdoor for thousands of dollars. To me, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like he was trying to profit as much as he could off of this. Maybe there was a legit game here that he wanted to see succeed. Maybe Ted is right. Maybe he saw the signs and he was trying to correct them on his own before it actually came out. I don't know. But it was like he was, he's borrowing from Pete to pay Paul. Like, the people that he had working with him, like, he kept promising them more and more of the stock, saying, you give me more money now and I'll help you out later on, giving them false promises. And they just kept giving him money, and the money just kept disappearing. But they didn't know it was disappearing because he was telling them everything was fine and everything was in line to be printed. It's just this huge lie built up upon millions of lies, right? And none of this shocks me. And none of it does. Like, truly none of it does. But it does surprise me that other people didn't see these signs, because just looking at that Kickstarter, it screamed, do not touch this out the gate. But I guess other people just didn't follow those signs. And like I said, I mean, he was a very nice and kind guy in person when you talk to him. So I can get how he can kind of fool people. But you got to understand, a lot of times that's what, crooks are. A lot of crooks are like that. They're very kind in person because that's how they get into your pockets, right? You got to be very good socially if you want to be, a really good scammer. So it doesn't shock me in the slightest that the man could have been just playing this con the whole time and just conning everybody. But it just sucks. It really sucks for anybody that invested their money into it. I'm sorry. Titan is dead. It's not going to happen at this point in time. So that makes another one for the books. Maelstrom, Titan, potentially Polywog. People ask me what other games I don't think are going to do good. I think Spells of Magic is in the same exact light. I think Dreambook is nonsense. There's a lot of games I'd say I just don't want to touch with 10-foot poles. And it kind of shocks me that people are dumping the money that they are into games like Dreambook and Cannabis and this and that. But, it is what it is. Back what you like. At the end of the day, you don't have to listen to me. But this is a crazy world that we live in, guys.